Good morning, it's October 17th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. And if you like the podcast, go to the YouTube version and hit the subscribe button. When I was a young boy growing up, there were two stories that we all read that were metaphors of being a bit hasty and extreme. The first was the story of Chicken Little, who ran around telling everyone the sky was falling. The second was the boy who cried wolf. When the wolf was actually coming, nobody listened to him. Well, the Democrats' campaign this fall remind me of those two stories. First, they tell us Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. We hear this over and over, and we've gotten to the point where nobody's listening to them. They want the public to believe that somehow Donald Trump will toss out the Constitution and seize control of the government and military. They call him names like Hitler and a fascist. But there's something they never talk about. How did Kamala Harris suddenly become the Democratic candidate for president? In a normal procedure, she would have run in primaries, and if she achieved the requisite number of votes, she would have been awarded delegates to the convention. But wait, she never ran in a primary. Joe Biden ran in the Democratic primaries and sewed up the nomination. And this is normal for a sitting president who's seeking a second term. But then came June, and the polling numbers for Biden were not looking very good. He decided to roll the dice and demanded that he and Trump debate before either had been formally nominated at their respective conventions. This was going to be his moment to show the country that he was in charge and dispel all this talk about him being too old, lacking stamina, and suffering some form of cognitive decline. Well, the debate happened on national TV, and the American public saw what Joe Biden had become. The most memorable line of that debate was when Joe Biden mumbled something about saving Medicare on a question about immigration. The moderators asked Donald Trump if he cared to respond. Trump looked at the moderators and said, and I quote, "I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either," end quote. That signaled the end of Joe Biden's campaign, and Democrats were in a frenzy about what to do. Now, they could have allowed candidates to quickly put their names in contention and even try to hold some new primaries. But instead, they decided to coronate the sitting vice president, Kamala Harris. She would not have to campaign for the nomination. The elites within the Democratic Party simply anointed her as the nominee. And to be sure that Joe Biden did not interfere, they threatened him with a 25th Amendment action. That would have declared him incompetent as serving president, and Harris would have to assume the presidency. The question I would like to ask is, how was this a democratic process? How did the likes of Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others decide they have the right to name the nominee? If you want to talk about a threat to democracy, then you have it right in front of you. In a backroom deal, the power brokers of the Democratic Party, the elites of the party, announced who the nominee would be, and it was up to you to accept it and get behind their decision. Second, we come to the immigration issue. How many times have you heard Harris and other Democrats claim that Donald Trump blocked the passage of an immigration bill? Seems to be another of their Chicken Little stories. They don't tell anyone that the House passed an immigration bill, H.R. 2, in the first months of the Congress. And when they sent it to the Senate, it simply died on the shelf. No hearings, no markups, no debate on the merits. It was not the Democrats' bill, so why even consider it? Well, in the interview last night with Bret Baier on Fox, Kamala Harris dodged every question on immigration. She referenced the bill that the Biden administration sent to Congress, but could not answer why a Democratic House and Senate did not pass the bill. I can tell you why, because it was an amnesty bill. She also refused to answer how many people have been allowed to illegally cross the border during the Biden-Harris administration. Baier then brought up the people that had been killed by illegal immigrants. You could tell she didn't want to answer that question. Baier then referenced Bill Clinton's comment about what he had said about the murder of Laken Riley, the young woman in Georgia. And Clinton said, and I quote him, "Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened," end quote. Well, you can bet the Harris campaign was on the phone to him that night, telling him what an idiot he was for saying that. When you listen to Kamala Harris answer tough questions, she always blames Trump for everything, even the things that she and Joe Biden put in place with their own policies. It clearly has become the little boy crying wolf, and the public is no longer listening. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening, and again, hit the subscribe button.